Herpes simplex virus. They belong to the family Herpesviridae. The herpes simplex virus occurs naturally only in humans. There are two types of herpes simplex virus, HSV1 and HSV2. HSV type 1 is human herpes virus 1 and HSV type 2 is human herpes virus 2. The HSV type 1 produces lesions in and around the mouth, and this is transmitted by direct contact or droplets from carriers or active cases. HSV2 causes genital herpes, and the infections occur through venereal transmission, that is sexual transmission mostly. The HSV grows in variety of primary and continuous cell cultures, and it produces cytopathic changes. These cytopathic changes are well-defined foci with heaped up cells, and there is syncytium or giant cell formation. The cytopathic change produced by HSV is they produce well-defined foci with heaped up cells and syncytial or giant cell formation. On chorioallantoic membrane of chick embryo, they produce small, white, shiny, non-necrotic pox. So on chorioallantoic membrane of chick embryo, the HSV produces small, white, shiny, non-necrotic pox. Let's see the major differences between HSV1 and HSV2. On chorioallantoic membrane of chick embryo, the HSV1 produces smaller pox, whereas HSV2 produces larger pox which resemble variola virus. Replication in fibroblasts is poor in HSV1, whereas the HSV2 virus replicates well in fibroblast. Next, the temperature sensitivity of HSV1 is less, whereas it is more in HSV2. Neurovirulence in lab animals. So HSV is less neurovirulent, whereas HSV2 is more neurovirulent. Resistant to antivirals, HSV1 is less resistant, whereas HSV2 is more resistant to antiviral drugs. Coming to the pathogenicity. The herpes simplex is one of the most common viral infections in humans. The natural hosts are only humans, and the source of infection includes saliva, skin lesions, and respiratory secretions. The route of infection is by close contact or venereal. Venereal transmission is seen in genital herpes. Entry. The herpes virus enters through the defects in the skin and mucous membranes, and it multiplies locally with cell-to-cell spread. And from the local site, it enters the cutaneous nerve fibers, and it is transported intra-axonally within the axons of neuron, and they enter the ganglia. The HSV1 enters the trigeminal ganglia, and HSV2 enters the sacral ganglia more often. And in the ganglia, the virus undergoes replication and it is latent. From the ganglia, it migrates to skin and mucosa, causing cutaneous and mucosal lesions. Migration to skin causes cutaneous lesions, and migration to mucosa causes mucosal lesions. And from the ganglia where they are latent, they get reactivated periodically in some individuals, and they cause recurrent oral and genital lesions. This is the reactivation of herpes. The herpes virus infection is most frequent and severe in HIV infected and other immunodeficient subjects. So the severe infection in immunodeficient subjects, which include the HIV infected people. The typical herpes lesions are thin-walled and umbilicated vesicles. That is, they have a depression on the vesicles like these. Their roof breaks down, leaving tiny superficial ulcers. So the lesions are thin-walled, umbilicated vesicles, and the roof breaks down, leaving tiny superficial ulcers. And these lesions heal without scarring. The primary infection is more severe, though it is self-limiting, and it has many systemic manifestations, whereas the recurrent infection is less severe and it is more localized. The characteristic of HSV1 and HSV2 is the HSV1 produces above the waist lesions, whereas the HSV2 produces below the waist lesions. Clinical features. The clinical features include cutaneous infections, mucosal infections, ophthalmic infections, infections involving the nervous system, visceral infections, genital infections, and congenital infections. First, let's see about the cutaneous infections. The most common site of cutaneous infections is face, on cheeks, chin, around the mouth, or on the forehead. The typical lesion is fever blister or herpes fibrilis. There is fever along with the lesion, so this is called as herpes fibrilis. This herpes fibrilis occurs due to viral reactivation in febrile patients, that is, patients who have fever. The occupational variety of cutaneous herpes is called as herpetic whitlow. The occupational variety means this is seen in doctors, dentists, and nurses. Next is eczema herpeticum. The eczema herpeticum is a generalized eruption caused by herpes infection in the children who are suffering from eczema. Next, coming to the mucosal infections. The most common site involved in mucosal infection is buccal mucosa. The primary infection most commonly presents as gingivostomatitis and pharyngitis, whereas the secondary and recurrent infections most commonly occur as recurrent herpes labialis. Labialis because they affect the lips. Third is ophthalmic. The herpes simplex virus infection is the most common cause of corneal blindness in some developed countries. There are two manifestations of ophthalmic infection. One is acute keratoconjunctivitis and the second is follicular conjunctivitis with vesicle formation on the eyelids. In case of ophthalmic infection due to HSV, steroids are contraindicated. This is because the steroids lead to deep stromal involvement and delayed healing with scarring, which ultimately leads to corneal blindness. So the steroids are contraindicated in HSV infection affecting the eyes. Next is nervous system involvement. The HSV encephalitis is very rare and it presents as acute onset with fever and focal neurological symptoms. HSV meningitis. It is a self-limiting disease and the CSF examination shows lymphocytic pleocytosis. Next is visceral infections. This includes HSV esophagitis, infection of the esophagus. The clinical features are dysphagia, substernal pain, and weight loss. Respiratory tract involvement. It manifests as tracheobronchitis and pneumonitis. Disseminated HSV infection. This occurs in immunodeficient patients, malnutrition, and those with burns. Genital herpes. This is due to venereal transmission, that is transmission through sexual contact. In males, the genital herpes presents as lesions on penis or urethra leading to urethritis. And in females, the cervix, vagina, vulva and perineum are affected. The genital herpes is most commonly caused by HSV2 more than HSV1. Next is congenital herpes. This is transplacental infection with HSV1 or HSV2 which can lead to congenital malformations, but this is rare. Infection can occur during birth if the mother has genital lesions due to HSV2. So in these cases, cesarean section may prevent the infection to the baby. Next is postnatal infection. This is most commonly caused by HSV1. So the infection during birth is most commonly due to HSV2, whereas postnatal infection is most commonly by HSV1. Neonatal herpes. The neonatal herpes may be confined to eyes, mouth or skin, and it most commonly presents as disseminated disease involving multiple organs with or without encephalitis. This neonatal herpes has high mortality rate and the survivors may have neurological impairment. Lab diagnosis. First is collection of specimen. The specimen includes vesicular fluid, skin swabs, saliva, corneal scrapings, CSF or brain biopsy on autopsy. Second is microscopy. In microscopy, Zancke smear is taken, which is stained with 1% aqueous solution of toluidine blue, in which multinucleated Jayne cells with faceted nuclei and homologously stained ground glass chromatin is seen. So these are called as Zancke cells, multinucleated Jayne cells with faceted nuclei and homogeneously stained ground glass chromatin. This indicates positive smear. Next is GMSA stain smears. They show intranuclear type A inclusion bodies. It is Cowdray type A inclusion bodies. The next is electron microscopy or fluorescent antibody technique can be performed, which is reliable and there is speedy diagnosis in case of encephalitis. Third is virus isolation. This is performed from tissue culture. For tissue culture, the human diploid fibroblasts are preferred. Note: culture should be observed for 2 weeks before being declared negative. So before being declared negative, the culture should be observed for 2 weeks. The typical cytopathic changes occur in 1 to 2 days. The difference between HSV type 1 and HSV type 2. The difference can be found by either of these three: nucleic acid hybridization, restriction endonuclease cleavage, or electrophoresis. So these three methods are used to differentiate HSV type 1 from HSV type 2. Fourth is serology. Serology is used in diagnosis of primary infections. So here the increase in titer of antibodies are measured by ELISA, enzyme linked immunosorbent assay, neutralization or complement fixation test. The fifth is molecular methods, which includes PCR, polymerase chain reaction, and this is more often used for lab diagnosis of herpes simplex virus. The lastly, treatment. Treatment includes use of edoxuridine topically in eye and skin infections, acyclovir and vidarabine. This is effective in management of deep and systemic infections. Next is valacyclovir and famiciclovir. These are more effective oral drugs. And foscarnet. This is used exclusively in resistant cases. So edoxuridine is used topically in eye and skin infections. Acyclovir and vidarabine is used for effective management of deep and systemic infections. Valacyclovir and famiciclovir is more effective in oral drugs, and foscarnet is used exclusively in resistant cases. This is about herpes simplex virus type 1 and type 2. Thank you.